Ferron Hiatt, and I'm here with Josh Finsel. We're going
Hi.
to talk about his new album.
Good to see you again,
Good
buddy.
to see you, Josh. So, why don't you... Let's start with some real broad backstory,
Okay.
because I've known you for years. I've known you from free-range folk for years, but outside of that, why don't you give us a little bit about your history of this town? You have deep, deep roots to this area, and you can
Okay.
hear it in the album.
Well, my dad side of the family are from, they call them pine swampers. They're from up on top of the mountain there.
Wow, pine swampers.
Yeah, so my dad's side, especially his mom's side, we're all like logger, moonshiner farmers that lived up
Okay.
on the plateau. My mom was from Lehigh.
So your mom was the classy one. She was the girl from town.
Yeah, yep. And yeah, so I grew up around here, between Whitehaven and Lehigh, on the river, like nearby the. We lived right on the river up in Whitehaven, and then Amber and I met here, got married here, and
You guys met in Jim Thorpe.
Yep.
I knew Amber before I knew you.
yeah, Amber and we met at the rest stop.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
She called me for a guitar lesson, and she's like, "Hey, my friend has a coffee shop," and so we met there. And she came. It's funny, like she had come up out of the basement because that was like where they would take breaks, and she comes out of the basement. She's like, "Yeah, I had a dream about David Bowie last night, and there were all these like." And then she's like, "Hey, I'm Amber. How you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, okay."
You ready for your guitar lesson? And
Yeah,
then, so how did
Bowie
you...
was like the reason I picked up the guitar.
Oh, he's really?
Yeah, like
Okay.
my dad took me. He got me into 4-wheeler racing when I was like 12,
Uh-huh.
and at the end of the summer, there was a banquet.
Okay.
And at the banquet, there was like a cover band that covered Ziggy Stardust, and that opening chord, I was like, "Wow, that's awesome!" I'm like, "Dad, what is this?" And he's like, "David Bowie," and he's like, after that, he like played the record for me, and I was like, "All right, I gotta get a guitar." You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, so David Bowie got you into this guitar. Amber then brought you back to David Bowie. And just jump ahead a little bit. This, is it
Mark Platty,
Mark
yeah.
Platty
Yeah.
mixed Bowie songs and
Yeah.
played on some of the albums, right?
Yep.
Who's playing on this album that you've got
Yeah, he
right
plays
now?
bass on 2 or 3 tracks, and he mixed the whole record for the most part.
Wow, that's really crazy.
Yeah, Dennis Patrick from Daedalus, he sent me a video of Bowie singing "Sail Away," and Platty was playing this fretless bass. And he's like, "Hey, this is what I'm hearing for the drought," and I'm like, "Cool. Well, who do you think play it?" And he's like, "That guy." And I'm like, "Really? How you gonna get him?" Yeah, and he made it happen. Yeah.
So he's playing on The Drought, which
Yep.
is like, I would say, the heaviest song. It's
Pretty heavy. Yeah.
it's an unbelievably beautiful song, I have to
Thank
say.
you.
Let me just tell you. It's like it's so it feels very personal. It also feels it goes from this confession to growing into this expanse. It's funny. It weirdly reminds me of Nebraska and just in many places out west. Growing up as a kid, and Yeah, I listened to it several times. I was like, it's really the to be able to take a. Well, first of all, what is that? What is that? Let's talk about drought for a little bit, because
Okay.
that's
Well,
that's a very fascinating story, a very fascinating song. And anyway, go ahead. Where does that come from?
it's a pretty old song, actually. Wrote it about a decade ago, maybe longer.
Really?
I was playing poker with my buddy Jim, who is the star in the "Don't Buy It New" video that we're putting out this month. And we're playing poker. My uncle and my cousin were there, and my cousin was still. He might have been just out of high school. He's like, hey, when it rains, or when the water is the water always here? Does it? He's like, does it get recycled? Like he had this like question, and we're all like, we're like kind of caught off guard because we're playing poker, and all of a sudden we're thinking about like the rain cycle, and I think from that experience, that night, for some reason, the lyrics just kind of came like stream of consciousness kind of thing. And it was like it was just a conversation between a boy and Mother Nature was the idea.
Okay.
And the boy not really believing, like the bridge part of the song is the boy not really believing that, that the drought could stay.
I really love how you take something as sort of science-based or earth-based, but you have turned it into something that feels very personal, but also, it's a great play with the boy and the Mother Nature, but you're singing it with your own daughter. The roles are reversed, the voices are reversed, the viewpoint is reversed. So one thing I thought was really fascinating is, and you have a very strong voice and you have a very mature voice. It would feel like it feels knowledgeable, but you're singing a song in innocence. So Mark Plati was the first one to sort of really take a fresh go at this. Is that was the first song he worked on?
Yeah, so there's a few that were close to being ready to mix. We sent those to Mark first, and the drought was the first one. He laid down the bass, offered to mix. Then we sent him 2 more, and they already had bass, but he mixed them for us. And then, by the time Like a Friend got to him, he's like, hey, I'm hearing a bass line on this. So we're like, go for it, He's like,
okay.
He's like, yeah, but I'm hearing some swampy bass. So he laid down.
What's your family, Pine Swamp people? Yeah. You're like, yeah, of course you're hearing that. What music do you personally sort of like gravitate to?
Like folk music is probably what resonates with me the most nowadays.
Okay.
A lot of it is because it's sincere. It seems like they're not writing music for an audience other than themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they're writing a song that they want to hear.
And it doesn't reject. It seems like folk music, there's always a place in the band for one more person if they want to play. They're always kind of welcome there, which is great. You have I think it's Permanent Wave that has like, like this is either the best bar song or the best like camp song, because it's like it's a great song to sing about, and it really captures that. Like if you only played the Shaky Apple, you can still can still join. Really.
And when I wrote that one, I heard free range folk in the chorus. It's like I just felt like this could it's got to have Kevin and Sarah singing and
Yeah, it's
Washboard
and it can get loud. I can also hear like this
Sean
could get
singing.
as loud as you ever want. It's a
Yeah.
baller song. It'll get,
Yeah.
They're very personal lyrics. All these songs, but I also you hear the Lehigh River mentioned. You hear multiple songs, and there's you have a very strong sense of place with these songs.
Yeah, the river for me is like a spiritual place. It's a metaphor for a lot of my songs. Even if it's not mentioned, it's like it's the music.
Yeah.
It's just a place, I feel really, really calm and relaxed next to the river. Got a lot of, like I said, I grew up in Whitehaven, like right on the river. You could hear it
Really?
right in our front yard, and we used to swim in it all the time. And then when we moved to Lehigh, we're still on the river. Now we live, you can
Right
hear
on
the
the river
river.
as well.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like, it's super, like, important, like, powered, spiritual.
And it's a rhythmic thing too. A river has a rhythm that not a lot, nothing else in nature that I can think of has. And the Lehigh is particular in that it has these swift areas. It has these very slow areas. It has like very high water marks. It has very low. When it's low, it's low, it's an interesting starting point. I think it's an interesting place where your poetry starts, which is very fascinating. I want to talk a little bit before I get too far about the name of the album.
No honey.
No Honey.
Yeah.
I'll admit when I first saw the album, I thought it was sort of like a directive, like put that down, no honey.
Yeah, Dennis kind of, pointed that out too. It was one of the last songs that we tracked in those, first 3 sessions.
Mm-hmm.
That one was one of the last ones we finished too for the record. But for me, I grew up in Whitehaven. We had the family farm. We always raised and butchered our own food.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like because I was a part of that, I don't want to waste time, waste this life, because and I think it came from that. Like the last verse about learning about life and death is directly from those childhood memories of learning of raising and killing and butchering your own food, and the mountain changing faces. When we lived up there, we were the only people on the mountain. There was
Really?
a 2-mile Jeep trail back up and down hills, all sandy soil, because for some reason that part is
Really?
all sand.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a sand quarry back the road that lots of blueberries growing because there's like a bog up there too. But anyway, this Jeep trail would wash out some days after a rain. We'd be like, "Oh, can't go to school today. Got to fix the road. The road. There's a river going through the road." So, but over the years, it had changed. More and more people bought houses and stuff. So, like the mountain changing faces is kind of
okay.
like thinking about that, and the family farm changed hands too, and looks completely different. Still in the family, but no honey for the bees. Well, at the time I wrote the chorus, there was discussion about pesticides and bees and bats and pesticides. So I think I was just thinking about that stuff because I've always really been interested in farming and learning about modern farming practices and through farmers that are actually doing it. You know,
Listening to the song and thinking of the title, I was getting more and more into it because, you know, it's such a simple line, no honey. And then if you think about it, you know, I was like, you know, we think of honey as almost like a luxury, and you know, it's the sweetener. It's, you know, you put in your tea. You know, it's not even sugar. It's almost like a luxury sweetener kind of thing. And then in the base of it is it's the canary in the coal mine. It's when there is no honey. Is, you know, that's
bad.
That's bad.
Yeah.
things lose their flavor, like literally. And you know, so I thought, so really, I was like, wow, that should be on every bumper sticker. You know, it's just amazing. And when you think about with the artistic community or the you know, the music community and just, you know, it just reminds me of that. Like, if things, yeah, once, you know, if our gardens are full of plastic flowers and, you know, they may look like something, but it's, you know, I thought it was, I personally, I just found it very profound as a metaphor, as a title, cool. As something to think about, you know.
Thank you. Yeah.
And it's also fun to hear free range folk musician Kevin Sarachon on this album playing a little bit of a different style, you know,
right.
And
yeah,
you know, and
Doug,
and Doug and Brett
and Brad plays a little bit of drums on it.
You got a lot of big names on this album. It's pretty amazing the people you got to play.
Kyle played a huge part.
Awesome.
Man,
wow.
The end of Like a Friend.
Oh yeah,
Kyle did on there with the strings. That day that he was here cutting sax, I started crying.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
he's pretty incredible.
Geez, that's
Who plays mouth harp? Just what?
Oh, that was me.
Is it? I was like,
yeah, it was a, you know, it was fun doing that. And Dennis has a nice mouth harp that he sterilized since then. When I play music, I'm just it's so good for me because I laugh and I have a good time, and it's probably where I laugh the most. And playing with new people, and just it's a gift. When we were recording this record, Dennis was like, "Hey, do you know anybody that plays piano or B3 or?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, there's a guy I jammed with, you know, at the Deerhead years ago, named Damien." And so I reached out to him, and he was on the road touring with Graham Lesh, Phil Lesh's son.
Oh really?
Playing B3, and he was on board for laying down some piano. He played on the Albatross.
Okay.
He actually, it's funny. He sent some reverse reverb kind of psychedelic kind of stuff that we ended up using for the intro. And
that's his stuff then. Okay.
Yeah.
What you're talking about.
Yeah, he's got a studio in New Jersey called the Pine Box, and he has vintage B3s, Rhodes, Whirlies. He's got like any, you know, cool sounding keyboard that there is, you know. And we were looking for a pedal steel player at one point, and Christo was like gung ho, he was like, "Yeah, I'll do it," you know. And so I sent him 6 or 7 tracks, and he ended up breaking his hand and moving to Nashville, and passing his bar, like all simultaneously. And then he's like, "Dude, I'm sorry I broke my hand, you know. My heart's all right, you know." Like, and then he finally got us the tracks, and he's amazing. He's an amazing pedal steel player, and I'll probably end up doing like sessions in Nashville.
My dad's a musician. You know, he grew up, and I think there's something, maybe it's like the river, maybe, you know, something in just the joy of playing music is just, It's meditative. It's the learning music is the only thing that still builds brain cells after a certain age.
Yeah, it's been something I wanted to pursue for the majority of my life. So I'm glad that it's happening.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous album. What's your plan next? I'll just leave off with that, I guess.
Well, we're rehearsing for the opening, the record release now. We got a 5-piece, Dennis on drums, Brett guitar, Amber on bass, and Doug on keys.
Oh, nice. Where's that going to be? The Opera House?
The Opera House, yeah, on February 6th.
Okay.
We're doing plans. I had such a good time doing this.
Good.
That I want to do it again.